All right, back at the mess that I made with my engine. Where we last left off, I had one head on, but then noticed that this one has pretty blown head gasket, which torched the head a little bit. So, decided that I am impatient and wanted to run the car this weekend. It's supposed to be racing, but because of coronavirus stuff, that's all closed down. But had some other extracurricular activity options. So I want to get the car back together. I had a set of truck heads. I thought about swapping springs over. Found out one of those was junk, but they were pretty crusty. And then a buddy of mine had some LS1 heads that he's no longer using, so grabbed those from him and started swapping springs and ran into an issue. So with the dual springs, you can't run the stock seats because this lip here doesn't allow the smaller spring to go over it. So what would happen is you would end up compressing this spring, and you would end up with coil bind and probably breakage. And so what those need to come out, and I can't get them to budge. So I'm kind of stuck. And also impatient. So like I said, so the plan today, and it might be total fail, is to weld this. I'll clean it up, preheat it, weld it. I do have a TIG. I've never tried welding something this thick before. So like I said, we'll have to preheat it. It's not a lot, just need to build it up a little bit. And then some unorthodox shade tree mechanic stuff. Gonna try to flatten it myself at home. So I have some flat boards that gonna use, seen other people do it before. Straight edge to check. And we're gonna try to resurface this thing at home. It, like I said, might be total fail if I can't get it to weld in the first place. That's the plan. We'll find out. So, found some more fun. This is an exhaust valve. Let's see if I can get this to... you can see. This actually, pretty sure happened last year based off of the cylinder I was on. It ate a spark plug last year, like mid-year, not too long after Rocky Mountain Race Week, and then I ran it for months and months and months until it finally toasted head gasket when I pushed it a little too hard. So what I did was took a stock valve, started lapping it, and just lapping it by hand here. So that should hopefully do the trick for now. All right. Show you here the finished results in a sec. So here's the stock valve after a little bit of lapping, compound, and a little bit of drill action. You can see nice gray ring all the way around. So that means it's making good contact all the way around with the seat. It's about as good as it'll zoom, but it's hard to see, but you can see just that same ring all the way around. Yeah, that'll work. So, welded this up. Actually went a little better than actually a lot better than I thought. I didn't even preheat it.
I'm sure it's probably low now around where I was, so gonna need to take a little off to get it flat. But it's hard to see, but it's definitely built up. And I normally run this, it's just an Eastwood TIG off of 110. And I had bought a long extension cord for an RV, and I don't have 220 on the garage, so I ended up changing the end on it to a utility end, and so it's actually just looped around to right inside of here on the other end for the laundry room. I unplugged the dryer. So that worked. Gonna let this cool down and then figure out how I can make it flat. Be interesting. All right, this is where we're at now. So let's see if you can see here. It's a bit porous, but it is outside of the fire ring area, except for a couple, but those should be sealed in. I'll probably copper spray it too. Right now it's maybe a thousandths proud of the rest of the surface, if that. Was hitting it with a just hand block. But then now I wish I could remember which YouTube video I saw it on, the guy's channel, but he does this. What he does is take some MDF board, which is nice and flat typically, and builds a hand sander basically, and you just basically just rub it back and forth like that on the head and get a nice surface on it. So this is 150 grit, and then I have some finer grit too. So we're gonna try it. Worst that could happen is I torch a head. Ha! So, all right, this is the face of a man that is experimenting and may totally fail. All right, we're gonna try to get this on video. You can see it was darker here, and you can still see it's darker there. But it's flattening down. When I welded it, it must have had some impurities. But you can see the whole head actually, see if you can see that, the whole head actually has some porosity to it. So then adding filler did not help. Well, I think I'm gonna switch to finer grit paper and then put maybe put a level on it first, or a straight edge on it first, I mean, see how it looks, and then finer grit and see what happens. 320 grit on it now. Marcus is going to work. All right, try to make sure you get the whole thing so you can go over a little bit there. Yeah, you don't want to like roll it because it'll put an edge on it, but you can go back and forth like this, and then go back and forth like this. You want to try it? There you go. Your arms are a little small.
Yeah. It looks like it doesn't have the scratches on of what it did.
Oh, it's pretty shiny, huh?
Yeah.
That's what you want. Bit of a mirror finish. Cool. Thank you. Yeah, you can't even feel it with your hands. You can catch a nail, of course. Cool. I'm gonna try it. After cleaning it up really good. All right, gonna be it for a little bit until we get it back on the car, or on the engine at least.
That's what it was from cleaning that up outside. All right, we're lapping valves now. Well, one. Make sure it seals up good. You just take the lapping compound, put it, you gotta clean it up afterwards, so it doesn't matter how much you put on. But just put that around there. Then you stick this back into the guide. And nice work. Then with the LS heads, it's not too bad. You can just gently put this on. You can see you go in and out. It's basically like sandpaper, Marcus. Stitch it. Doesn't take much pressure. Then, we showed this earlier, but you just pop this out, and you wipe this off, and see if you have a ring all the way around it. There's a couple spots through there where it's not hitting really good. So I think what we're gonna do had a little wobble. It may be slightly bent. Had a little wobble on the drill. So we're gonna grab another one of these. We took one out already. Stock valve. Do it again.
It's fun videoing. Because then you can get up close and do all the angles.
Yeah, Micah has to do all of the
Hey,
editing.
we can have a crew. You do the work, and then Micah does the editing, and I do the videoing.
That works. It's basically what we're doing.
All right. Ended up in the aftermarket valve back in. For some reason, the stock valve was a little tight in the guide. So re-looked at this and just did it a little bit more, and it evened out good. So I think I just had the drill on a little off. Why it was wobbling just a hair. Probably couldn't even see it on video with the drill, but looks good now. Unfortunately didn't get a good video of what it looked like after finished slapping it in, but it did get a nice ring all the way around on the valve, so should be good to go, and certainly better than it was. So next thing is gonna finish cleaning up the block and then bolt this thing on and probably time lapse putting the engine back in. Hope for the best. All right, explain a little bit about what I'm doing. So did get the head on, obviously, torque down, good to go. I drilled a hole in my pretty head because welding it wasn't destructive enough. So this hits a coolant jacket, and what I found was with my Davies Craig pump,
and controller, I put the coolant sensor, the temp sensor, in the radiator. Tapped a spot there for the temp sensor, and what I found is it read much cooler than the coolant sensor on the head. And so it was, I had to turn the pump on much sooner than what I would have otherwise, and it wasn't consistent. So sometimes it would read similar to engine temp, and sometimes it would read much cooler than engine temp, depending upon how much airflow was coming through and what was going on with the radiator. So long story short, it won't fit here because it hits the firewall. That would have been a nice spot to put it. Would have needed an adapter, but still. So I'm gonna drill and tap here, and that should work. All right, so I do a pretty poor job of time-lapsing things, apparently. That happened. So it's in. Still not completely bolted down yet. It's onto the trans. Need to get the motor mount bolts done. But you can see a decent amount of room now until we get the turbo in. And turbo, so pretty. Okay, that was rough. Just getting those motor mounts, those motor mount bolts in. For some reason, didn't want to line up perfectly. Took forever. Beat up, but it's in. So probably not going to film the rest for a little while because it's all underneath. Have to do converter spacing, then bolt up the converter, starter, stuff like that, and then I'll get back to the part on top. So gonna be probably a long day. Had hoped to still have some fun tomorrow, but we'll have to see. Okay, it is now midnight, but engine's in, turbo kit is on other than the turbo, accessories on, water is in, and what's awesome about the electric water pump is you can cycle it, get all the air out of the system, and don't have to worry about it. So just had it running and filled up the overflow surge tank, and yeah, it worked great. Super time saving. You don't have to worry about whether you have all the water or air burped out or not. So gonna put the turbo on and button it up and start it in the morning because it's late. I'm tired. All right, I think I'm calling it for the night. Have the meth injection hooked up, little cheater line there. Need to do the exhaust yet, and that should be it. All right, hopefully tomorrow, no problems, should be good, and test it, and then might go to Mexico. We'll see. All right, a little bit of sleep. It's the next day, and I lied. I ended up staying up till like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and putting it back together just because I couldn't stop. So
It is completely back together. Water pump's running. I am getting ready to start it up. So we'll see. This is the first fire up after a DIY head head repair. Fail. I think I may have too much fuel in the startup tune or something. I don't know. Closer. Starts. I have to play with the tune. I don't know what changed. And it's cooking off all of the oil that I spilled. Whoops. All right, took it for a ride. Had a small coolant leak and fixed that hopefully. Going to start it up again, cold start. Played with the startup tune a little bit. Hopefully it's a little better. We'll see.